Sure. Cool. All right. So December's book, everything is illuminated. Does anyone have their book?
I have the ebook from the library.
Okay. Ooh, yours is different, Heather.
I like Blue Penguin.
Yours is on an ebook. All right, cool. Does anyone want to know why it's in these colors before I get started? Why is it in blue and yellow?
Mine is rainbow. Oh no.
I mean, blue and
Mine is
yellow, I
rainbow.
could be very wrong.
Yeah, there's different covers, but this is the one I have. Danielle has this one too. This is the one I see most frequently.
Ukraine.
Yeah, it's for Ukraine. It's pretty cool. Considering everything that's been happening in Ukraine, actually, I think they're about to not celebrate, but they're about to have their 1 year
Oh wow.
invasion anniversary or something like that. Because it was in January of 2022 when they were invaded, right? I think so. That seems so long ago. So very long ago. Okay, so everything is illuminated. Did anyone watch the movie? Has anyone seen the movie with Elijah Wood?
Not yet, but I do want to watch it.
I do too. I actually think I did watch it many, many years ago, but I don't think I watched it all the way through because when I read the ending of this book, I didn't remember seeing that. So, I tried to see if it was at my local library, but I don't think it is. And neither is any of the books that, or any of the movies that I want to see. Like I can't find the Joy Luck Club. I can't find The Road. I can't find,
Really?
I can't find Everything is Illuminated. So like, they just don't have it. I'm like, this is Fairfax County, Virginia. You should have it.
Let me
But
see if I have it.
The Joy Luck Club, I think I found that one on YouTube. And The Road is on HBO Max, I think.
okay, I don't think I have those, but some of my hotels I get HBO Max for free, so
Oh, nice.
I'll try and look out for that the next time I'm at my overnight. Okay, so everything's illuminated.
It is at the Queens Public Library, just so you know, the DVD.
Okay, let me become a member. I'll just fly up there and grab it real quick, and then I'll return it on my next flight back.
Sounds good.
I can do that. That's a perfectly reasonable thing for a flight attendant to do.
I don't know if all libraries have this, but I think you can also not stream, but they have access to some video, some type of streaming. It's not like Netflix or anything like that, but something along those lines.
There definitely is, yeah.
Yeah, for videos and movies.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. So I have some questions here that I wrote down. We'll try and keep this like mostly focused on just the questions, and we can flesh out what we thought about certain things. So I kind of wanted to do, I forgot to do this earlier and I apologize. I kind of wanted to do, there's 8 questions that I wrote down. There's 4 of us, so we can both answer 2 questions. I kind of want to do what I did for Mexican Gothic, which is just write down the question or write down the number associated with the question, and then I will draw the number and we'll just go, it'll go Adina. I'm just seeing how it's looking up on my screen. Adina, me, Heather, and then Daniela. Does that make sense? So number 1 will go to Adina, number 2 will go to me, 3 for Heather, 4 for Danielle, and then we'll just go back through again. And then if at any point someone else, like if it's not your question, but you really want to say something about the certain question, you want to put in your 2 cents, go ahead and do that because I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this book. Ripping the pages, ripping the pages, folding the pages, folding the pages. Oh, I need my little bowl. Where's my little gravy bowl? Oh, it's behind me. Okay, let me grab it real quick. The gravy bowl that I don't know what to do with.
Did you use it for Thanksgiving?
No, no. I did not. I don't even remember what I did for Thanksgiving. I think I was with my family. I don't know. It's so long ago. All right, so Adina, you have,
Hopefully I remember stuff because I finished this like the week before Christmas.
I know, right? Well, I mean, if you need help, you can phone a friend.
It's okay.
I finished it 30 minutes ago, so
Oh my
maybe I
gosh.
can help. I could not get through this book. I could not. I loved it. I love, hate it. Anyway. your
Yeah.
turn, Nadine.
Yeah. All right, so Adina, your question is number 4. Number 4, why does Jonathan Safran Foer, the author? So anytime I say Jonathan Safran Foer, I'm gonna say the author or the character, and that's yeah, you'll get.
Understand.
Okay. So why does Jonathan? I can't really say his name. Jonathan Safran Foer. Maybe I should say it like Alex says it and says Jonathan.
Yeah, just say Jonathan.
The author used his own name as the main character. Why do you think he did that? Because that was confusing.
Yeah,
obviously.
so at first I was like, are you describing yourself as this annoying like American? Like, is this you? And then I had the thought today, I was like, is this like This Is the End? I don't know if you've seen this movie, but where they wrote, like they acted as their own name in the movie, but I don't think this is like how they are. It's just like playing someone as yourself.
Like a character.
And I don't, yeah, like a caricature, or like this character has your name but is like different from you or may share some similarities. But I don't really understand the trope, because yeah, I was thinking about that today, just like, why did he do it?
Yeah.
Either like he thinks he's annoying, or he would have liked to have been on this discovery. I don't know. Yeah.
Guys, I never put that together. Never. Did
Which-
not.
Oh, that was his name?
Yeah, like I never look at the author, like ever. And I know that's
Oh.
bad. So you just blew my mind.
He like said, my name is this, and I was like, I thought this was fiction. What is happening here?
For sure. And like when I was looking into the description of this book and the synopsis of this book after I read it to get a more fully formed picture of what happens, it's so funny because I'm not quite sure the author, Jonathan, had the realization that when people were going to be breaking down this book, like at a Cliff Notes level or book club level, that it was going to create a lot of confusion. So I don't know if he knew that was going to happen, if that was part of his plan.
Yeah, he did it on purpose. I mean, it could be that he did it on purpose. I don't. Sort of confuse like what he's done or his experiences with this character. I don't know.
Yeah, so I did watch an interview with him on, I believe, Charlie Rose. And they really fleshed out what the story was about, how it came about, what happened. And so the author, Jonathan Safran Foer, he did go to Ukraine to find exactly what Jonathan Safran Foer in the book was looking for. He had a photo of his grandfather with a woman and maybe some other people who he thought, and who maybe he was informed of by somebody in his family or otherwise, had helped his grandfather escape and survive the Holocaust and survive all of that. But when he went to Ukraine, he found nothing. No leads. He basically went there and wasted a bunch of money and was sort of downtrodden about it, that he had gone on this journey through this really, really different country, never knew anything about it, didn't know the language or anything like that. And he's just like trying to find something based on a simple photograph. And so I think the author sort of just decided that he was gonna create this really sort of what do you call it? I wrote it down. Magical realism type story, especially with
An alternate timeline.
yeah, yeah, just kind of like has carte blanche with how he decides to rewrite this history that he's experienced. And he goes back, the author goes back to Prague, and he has like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks that he's there, and he writes this story. And he was probably, I don't know if he ever says that he was like high or I mean, he was in Prague, so you know anything can happen. But he came up with this story, and it ended up being this book. So that's kind of part of it.
Okay.
But this is the first time I've ever had an author write his own name into a character, and then it be like not a memoir or an autobiography or something like that. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Like I said, just that other movie is the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of that one. Is it with, it's a comedy movie, right?
It's Seth Rogen and yeah,
Yes.
it's a stoner comedy. Yeah. But it's out of control.
So wait, Leonardo DiCaprio plays Leonardo DiCaprio?
Well, Emma Watson's in it. Who's the other?
What's the movie called?
This is the end.
Is that the one about the asteroid that's
It's about the Armageddon, like the end of times.
is Jennifer
The rapture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Is it a comedy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's got like a ton, it starts with
It's got like so
party.
many actors. Yeah, they have a big party.
Yeah, it's a big party. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
That's not what I thought. Okay.
But that's literally the only time when I've seen people be like, I'm acting as myself, but I'm not I assume.
Yeah, isn't Rihanna in it too? And
Yeah.
okay.
I'm only seeing a TV show called The End.
It's called This Is the End.
Oh, this is the end.
It's got like
Yeah.
Seth Rogen, that like cast of characters, all
Yeah.
of the like from Knocked Up, and
It has who was in that dancing movie? Magic Mike.
Oh, Channing Tatum.
It's Channing Tatum, but he's like someone's anyway.
it's good.
Now it's on my to watch list.
I watched it with
Well,
my
just know
mom.
it's very inappropriate.
I actually watched it with my mom, and I was like, I don't know, Mom, I don't know if you like this. And like there were so many inappropriate things, like, you know, just gross stuff. And she loved it. She thought it was hilarious. I kept looking over her and being like, Mom.
The ending is fantastic.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
not to divert you, but that's the only thing I could think of that was similar to this for whatever reason.
Well, there's a lot of famous people in this.
Mm-hmm.
I do know my
Nick
mom has
Carter?
glasses.
What's that?
I said my mom has those glasses, the glass that you just drank out of. No, the
Oh,
glass.
really?
Yeah. My mom.
My mom gave me these glasses. So there you go.
She has good taste. She has good taste. All right, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
I'm next. Cool. I hope I get a good question. Oh, I have question number 8. Question number 8 is, did you have a favorite moment or chapter or sentence that you'd like to share? I actually do. Let me see if I can go back in my notes. It's when Yankel dies and Broad is coming home from her duties at the Tracham Day parade, and does she see him die? It's on page 97 of this. Let me see if I'll narrow it down to the chapter. 97.
Made a death a proposition. I think is a chapter.
Yep, that's the chapter. A Parade, a Death, a Proposition 1804 to 1967.
Okay.
I really liked this paragraph. She found him in the library, but he was not asleep in his favorite chair, as she suspected he might be, with the wings of a half-furnished book spread across his chest. He was on the floor, fetal, clutching a balled-up slip of paper. Otherwise, the room was in perfect order. He tried not to make a mess when he felt the first flash of heat across his scalp. He was embarrassed when his legs gave out beneath him, ashamed when he realized he would die on the floor, alone in the magnitude of his grief, when he understood that he would die before he could tell Broad how beautiful she was that day, and that she had a good heart, which was worth more than a good brain, and that he was not her real father, but wished with every blessing, every day and night of his life that he was. Before he could tell her of his dream of eternal life with her, of dying with her, or never dying, he died with the crumpled slip of paper clutched in one hand and the abacus bead in the other. I read that and I was like, oh, that's so sad. Like, Yankel was such a good father to her, and he wasn't even her real father, and she never even knew that, at least until the very end. Yeah, I really liked that part. I just liked the that she had a good heart, which was worth more than a good brain. Did anyone else have any moments that really stuck out to them?
I just wanted to mention the writing was very interesting because when Alex was the one writing, it was funny, and you know his English too, like he would replace certain words. But then there were parts like these, and I'm trying to remember, it was early on, there was a quote that I really liked that are kind of, and it's all the ones that include the story about the shell are very kind of deep and more actually read more like a book, like a fiction book.
Yeah.
So I found that really hard to get through when I was reading. But let me try to find the quote that I want to remember. I think I put it on here. Just wanted to mention that. So let's see. It has to do with when Alex is describing his little brother.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Igor.
Igor, little Igor.
Igor. I don't know. Maybe pronounced it Igor, but Igor probably.
Mhm. I can't find it right now, but that was the gist of that.
Yeah, he loves his little brother. He'd do anything for him.
I don't know that I necessarily liked a specific part, but I think what I enjoyed is, like, this might sound, I don't know if the word's callous, I don't know what the word is, but as someone who's been raised Jewish and had relatives who were Orthodox, and I just thought it was all crazy. It was, I don't know if the word's entertaining, but I enjoyed reading how he was describing things in the Jewish world or Jewish realm of things, because he made it so ridiculous and comical, which is kind of how, like, my siblings and I viewed some of the rules that the Orthodox Jews have and the beliefs that they have and the actions that they take. Like, they're so extreme and seem to be pulled out of your ass. And that's what he wrote this kind of as, which made me then chuckle / wonder why, like, I don't know if your book says it. My book says that it got, he won an award for this, including the National Jewish Book Award. And I was thinking, like, did the Jews actually read this, or is it like from Reform Jews who are kind of
Probably.
like, this is hilarious, because, you know, when he's talking about, like, and all the contradictions of, like, I don't know if there is, how much corruption there is in the Orthodox Jewish community, but, you know, it's like being chaste and being like with your wife, and then, like, there's all this cheating, or, like, you know, you're not supposed to think of women or do things without it being about your wife, and yet all these people are, like, having affairs or masturbating or whatever.
This book is
So
very
I think-
sexually explicit.
Yeah, I was like, this guy definitely
Like,
was
oh
raised.
my God,
I
like,
was thinking
this is
he must have
right.
been raised in an Orthodox house or something where, like, you know, your sexuality is very repressed and private. And because I was like, he is writing so much like sexual stuff, it felt like he was like, it was like a release without. So, yeah.
Yeah, probably, you know, like there was a lot of, he just like decided I'm gonna go in the complete opposite direction of what maybe is expected of me as a Jewish writer. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea, but
To me, some of that stuff felt, I think the right word is anachronistic, like just the way it was written, because it was supposed to take place in this olden time, but yet it was written like someone from the present, like living there. So I don't know. I was a little, I was like,
yeah.
maybe that is what people were saying, but it just seemed hard to believe in a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, it was very entertaining.
There was a quote, it's on page 18, that it had one of the, I guess it was a rabbi saying this, I'm not quite sure, but he says, we fulfill the law by transgressing it. And it kind of goes to what Heather was saying about how it's almost like heretical in a way as you're reading this. So it's very, it adds to the humor of it when you're reading it, but it is kind of, actually, that's a good question. Like, you know, is it making fun of the faith that they have or just relating to it? I don't know.
It could be both. Like Jews, there are a lot of Jews who, well, I wouldn't again say Orthodox, but we make fun of ourselves because some of the things we do are so extreme and based in, like, from an outsider, well, even an insider in this case, but like why, like what, you know, I don't know, you know, like we can't wear, women can't, after like 18, or I think when you're married, like you can't show your hair because it's seen as like sexual, whatever. But now women are getting wigs made out of other people's hair and curl it and style it like you would your own hair. And it's like, it's just so, yeah, blows my mind, contradictory. I could be on my pedestal forever on that. But we know to make like fun of ourselves, you know, for things that, yeah. Sorry if my laundry's really loud in the background.
Me too. Yeah, and then, well, I think it's kind of funny he splits them up into slouchers and upriders, and that's probably where some of that more ridiculous stuff comes into play. Okay, great. Let's move on. Heather, there's questions for you. You have question number 3. Woo! To prove it to you. Question number 3. Okay. Question number 3. What were your impressions of Safran Foer's, the character, use of magical realism in his retelling of his family's history in Church and Broad? And why do you think he does this? Because you're reading this story, so it's the retelling of his family's history in Church and Broad. Starts off with the guy who gets stuck under the wagon in this sort of miraculous birth of Broad. And like when I was reading this first, I was like, okay, this sounds kind of outlandish, but like maybe it really happened. And then later on, I was like, okay, there are definitely some things that wouldn't actually happen in real life, but for sake of creating this story, maybe Jonathan had decided to use some, I don't know, creativity. So what is your answer?
I didn't know if it, you know, I guess in the beginning I was like, oh, this is very fantastical, you know, like a very outlandish storytelling. Hold on, I'm gonna go shut the door to my laundry. I don't know, can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
Only a little bit.
Really?
hold on.
I'm gonna grab some water.
Okay. I'm gonna stay here.
Me too.
Well, I could probably use some water. Oh well.
All right. Yeah, so it felt like it was very, of course now it dies down. Fantastical. And then I guess towards the end, when you find out that like what they're finding out from who they thought was Augustine, that like they weren't really finding out anything about their story, so about his story. And so I feel like he was embellishing because he was like, well, there's nothing to tell here, and I did all this big trip for nothing. And you know, I want to write a story, but I want it to, I don't know, it felt like once you find out that he hadn't found anything out about his actual family, he wanted to write it more humorously, with more humor. But I was kind of confused by that. But I didn't know if it was also alluding to the fact that, you know, family stories tend to get embellished as we, you know, pass them on generation to generation. And I don't know if all the like, and then it was questioning like all the sexual stuff that he ended up writing into his, well, it was written the whole time, but I was like, was that an influence from his friend who was talking about all his carnal adventures or whatever? Like, not his friend, Sasha. What's his name?
Alex.
Yes.
Sasha. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if he was writing that into a story so that it would impress Sasha.
Oh. Well, you could be right there. Yeah.
Because at the end it seemed like, I didn't know if I was reading into it, but the letter to Jonathan from Sasha made it sound like he was in love with him, and then his dad was accusing him of being in love with him. I don't know if I read that wrong. He was like, he was listing all these relationships, and basically it was like not friendship relationships. It was like husband and wife, husband and wife, husband and wife. And then his dad or his grandfather maybe says, oh, are you going to go pick up a comrade at the bar? And that's the first time he like grabbed his father or grandfather. And so I don't know if there was and he started signing love at the end of his letters.
Yeah, went from guilelessly to love.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not sure I noticed that. That's weird.
Well, yeah, in one of the letters, he was like, you are this person, and I am this person, and this person, and this person.
Or coward Jonathan, and you have disappointed me.
Here it is on page 214, at least in my book, 24th of December, 1997. We are talking now, Jonathan, together and not apart. We are with each other, working on the same story, and I'm certain that you can also feel it. Do you know that I am the gypsy girl and you are Safran, and I am Kolker and you are Broad, and I am your grandmother and you are grandfather, and I am Alex and you are you, and that I am you and you are me. Do you comprehend that we can bring each other safety and peace? When we were under the stars in Trachimarad, did you not feel it then? Do not present non-truths to me. Oh, sorry, do not present not truths to me, not to me.
That's kind of passionate.
Sorry?
Runs a little like passion.
Passion. Yeah. And then afterwards it says, and here, Jonathan, is a story for you, a faithful story. I informed father that I was to go to a famous nightclub last night. He said, I'm certain that you will return home with a comrade. If you want to know what was on his mouth, vodka was. I do not intend to. I said, you will be so carnal, he said, laughing. He touched me on the shoulder, and I will tell you that it felt like a touch from the devil. I was most ashamed of us. So to me, I was like, but it might not be like, you know, that he actually is in love with him. It's just that he has become enamored with this guy who he wants to be like, wants to be a writer like him, wants to be in America like him. So it could be, but it sounds like because his dad picked up on it, although even if his dad picked up on it, closed-minded men will always say you can't be enamored with, another man without being in love with him.
Or admire them without being, something else.
Sexually inclined. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that was going off a tangent, but
Really, not really.
I'd forgotten about that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, as the letters progress from Alex to Jonathan, Alex becomes more honest in what he says. So he starts off by being like, I bag many women, I
Right.
am a dog, I am tall, I'm a really good dancer, and I like to go out to the clubs. And then as these letters progress, he actually becomes more honest and says, I actually don't do any of these things. I'm kind of a loser who just is living at home with an abusive father and a recluse grandfather. So, he's becoming more truthful as time goes on, and actually Jonathan's becoming less truthful as time goes on. So there's like this role reversal of Alex being like, wait a second, these aren't true, and you can't say these things, and I'm really upset with you. When he used to be the same way, but they're having these revelations about their very existence. So I guess that kind of, it maybe comes with the territory a little bit. So that you bring up a really good point, Heather. It's like, what is the relationship?
So I have a question about that. It sounded like in the letters that Jonathan was giving like feedback on Alex's writing.
Right.
Of course, we don't get to see that feedback. But there's some things that I'm like, if he was giving feedback, wouldn't Alex's writing have changed a little bit? Like, the only thing I can think of is in the use of the word rigid instead of hard or difficult. I'm like, would that have stayed like him using rigid forever and
I don't
not
know.
like,
It's actually one of the questions that I have.
uh-oh,
So I'll answer it. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, but it's good that you picked up on that. That's very good. That's very good. Okay.
manufactured
Anyway.
Z's. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
You manufactured
There's
many Z's.
one, there's
Oh
one,
yeah, that one.
there's one quote in here that I think is really funny, and I'll try to remember to tell you guys what it is. If we can get to it. Okay, so number 3. So we just kind of came to the conclusion that he didn't find anything, so he just kind of created this like crazy story to fill in the blanks and give his family history a fantastical story. Because why not? All right,
By
Danielle.
the way, I have just one comment of what Heather pointed out. The name of the chapter is Falling in Love. So
There you
just
There's actually multiple chapters with that name.
yeah, but
There's a lot of falling.
1934 to 1941. So maybe because the time is different, but it doesn't reflect them.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
All right.
Okay, sorry. That's
No,
it.
you're good. You're good. Daniela, number 6 is yours. And number 6 is, what are your feelings about using humor for really heavy topics? In this case, the Holocaust, the sort of wrangling of the Jews that the grandfather experienced firsthand. Obviously, like this book starts out as like a really happy, not happy, but lighthearted. You get this really funny narrator who uses funny words and all of that, and you quirky characters too. And then towards the end, it gets pretty dark. So what are your feelings about using humor for those really heavy topics and moments?
I want to say that I enjoy it because it really has to do with your personality. And I do think I'm those type of people that, use humor to cope. You know, if something bad happens, I might look at some memes about it. But at the same time, based on how you are brought up, there's certain things, right, that you feel uncomfortable joking about. And I did notice that at the beginning, you know, those parts where he's kind of almost making fun of like how they're praying or things like that. Like I can see the humor and I can acknowledge, okay, like he's trying to be funny, but it almost feels uncomfortable to like laugh at those because I grew up in a very Christian conservative, and I still kind of you know, relate to all of that myself too. So you recognize the humor, and I think it helps with processing it. But there are certain things that you're like, oh, I wouldn't joke about that, or even like the things with his dad and how he writes about his family. You know, if you're someone that has gone through something like that, you know, with a parent or domestic abuse per se, like you may not find that funny, or you may not find that humor helps you deal with that. But overall, I would say it helps in a positive way, but you have to personally have that mindset or kind of be open to that type of healing.
Yeah, there's a quote. Where is it? Might be something to do with we have to find humor. Exit full screen. Let me see if I can find it.
I'm just remembering what happens at the some of the things. Oh gosh.
I feel like he didn't use humor. I felt like I felt like he dropped the humor for the part where his grandfather was admitting things.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I felt like it all of a sudden sobered up.
No, it got
basically-
super.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically until the end, like he knew. Yeah, but I think the way his quote unquote humor could have been inserted is when he was saying, he was like, I do not know why my grandfather would say this, or like, I was confused as to why he did this action. Like, I think that was like gentle, subtle humor that he could insert into a really challenging time. Like, I'm really glad. I mean, again, as somebody raised Jewish, you know, when it comes to the Holocaust, I don't think there's anything funny about it. And so I was thankful that there wasn't humor in it. Yeah, so I'm kind of glad. But like you said, the abuse thing, I was thinking like, well, if somebody's actually suffered, you know, at the hand of abuse, that might be offensive.
I don't know where the quote is, but it's something like you have to use humor to deal with sometimes the terrible things that happen in your life. I that's just a regurgitation of something that was written, and I think that was something that Alex says. He says, you know, I use humor to deal with these like really tragic things to make it better, to give it more truth. I think it's part of it is like there's truth in humor.
Is that the same part where he says like his mom thought he was funny, but he only wanted to be funny in a certain way. He didn't want to be like funny looking or funny odd.
Yeah, I think so. I wish I knew where it was. I swear I wrote it down, but I can't seem to find it. Maybe I'll find it. Anyways,
Is it the humorous person part, or because I can actually search my book?
Oh yeah.
well, that's nice.
Oh, I used to think humor was the only way to appreciate how wonderful and terrible the world is, to celebrate how big life is. And now I think it's the opposite. Humor is a way of shrinking from that wonderful and terrible world.
Okay, yeah.
Almost like avoiding the pain of what you're going through by laughing through it.
I will tell you, this book I'm reading right now, Train in Winter, is like so unbelievably messed up. It's so messed up. It's awful. And it's all true. It's all about Auschwitz. It's all about, and these women that survived or are trying to survive, they have to use these feelings of camaraderie, these ability to like make themselves and each other feel better in like the most dire circumstances, and that's how they survive. Like they just in these crazy, absolutely insane things that are happening in humanity, and they manage to stick together and help each other up, literally and figuratively. And I think part of the things that they use is humor. You know, they celebrate, like they make fun of their little tufts of hair after their hair gets cut off, and you know, they gather around and they have these like little plays that they do during their downtime, and it's, yeah, so it really does resonate with this book in terms of like humor can be used as a tool to help those like really, really heavy things feel just a little bit lighter, because how else are you going to be able to deal with these issues? So I'm almost done with that book, and it's like, oh God, I just want it. I want it to be done. I want to know the happy endings. And it's like, how can there be a happy ending? But there are. So
Is this, you said this is based on a true story?
it is a true
Or
story.
true, and what is it called?
It's called A Train in Winter by Caroline Moorhead. It's about the French resistance, mostly female, but there are a lot of male people in it too. But it's, you know, the female war during World War II was mostly in resistance and helping spread anti-German, anti-Nazi propaganda, which was punishable by eventually sending these women to Auschwitz. So they were in their own little clan of people, not mingling with the Jews, not mingling with the gypsies, not mingling with anyone else who was part of that, the concentration camp of Auschwitz and everywhere else. They were their own group, and so they all had their own little labels and everything. And yeah, it's like all they did was, well, not all they did. They did incredible things. They printed things, they sent things off, they passed people from occupied North France to free South France. The book that you want to read, Daniela, is based on that, The Nightingale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that book that I read last year, The Nightingale, is a fictional retelling of those women in the war. So very good, very sad, very heavy. I'm ready to finish it. But I'm glad that I'm reading it for sure. Okay, we digress. I feel like we answered that question, yes. Yeah, humor. Okay. And we'll go back to the top to Adina. You have question number 7. How did you feel about the ending? What was the title justified, or did it leave you with more questions than answers?
I mean, the ending, like we talked about, was very dark. I'd say it was the most, I don't know, I couldn't like stop reading at that point. Like I couldn't put it down. But yeah, as far as everything being illuminated, I'm not sure I fully understood what was being illuminated, because yeah, I don't know if you guys did, but yeah, just the grandfather, and like there's just so many things that happened. The gypsy girl, and then the woman Zosha, right? She got shot, and his friend dying, and like just all of that. I don't know. It was a lot all at once.
Yeah, it really did kind of snowball into this really
And
big.
it was like, it's a terrible situation, and it wouldn't make sense like to not out his friend, but none of it made sense. Like it just was a terrible situation. Like there's no way to win. Like I just thought that was really terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he kept saying over and over, like, I'm not a bad person. I was living in a bad time.
Yeah.
And
And just when they were like questioning him and they kept shooting people, and it was like, and his friend was just like, don't tell me, don't tell him.
yeah, I mean, there's little breadcrumbs that are obviously scattered throughout the book that allude to this reveal. The first one's on page 6.
6? Oh wow.
Well, a lot of it's all in the parenthetical. So anytime I see a parenthetical with these letters. No, this isn't a letter. This is Alex's story. He said, "Father dubbed me an expert. At the time when he said this, it seemed like a very reasonable thing to say, but how does this make you feel, Jonathan, in the luminescence of everything that has occurred?" So right then and there, I was like, oh, okay, so, obviously they know something we don't know. We're going to find out. Father dubbed him an expert, meaning his father.
His grandpa, yeah.
So I knew, the reader knew that something is obviously illuminated. Does anyone else want to piggyback on that? The question was, how did we feel about the ending? Was the title justified, or did it leave you with more questions than answers?
I was left with Sasha's dad was such a horrible person, but the grandfather kept saying at the end, he was like, everything you like, a father has to be good to his son. A father has to be good to his son. But he didn't talk about how he raised his son. Obviously, something happened because the son was horrible, but he was better to his grandkids. And I was going to say something on that. What was I? And that the fact that he had his friend killed, basically, he was saying, his excuse was to protect his son at all costs.
His son was a jerk.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is the story for so many people who lived during that time. In the book, A Train in Winter, there's a lot of people who get caught and then end up snitching on other people because they're promised to be taken better care of, even though a lot of those promises were empty and ended up not serving them at all. But there were bounties on people's heads, including I don't know if it was on Anne Frank's family, but definitely there were bounties like in different countries. Holland had bounties that amounted in a certain amount of money. France had bounties. Czech Republic had bounties. They all had these bounties. And so you could basically snitch on people, resistors, or people who were hiding. And that's sort of like how dangerous that time period was, is that the Third Reich and what ended up being the final solution started out as something so sinister, even still started out something so sinister, but so people didn't realize was going to have such an impact on the outcome of the war. So yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy because you really are just looking out for number one and your family and everything. And even though you may regret it for the rest of your life, it's safe. Like you were saved. You and your family were saved. So again, I'm a good person. I was living in a bad time.
Well, it's sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you need, help from others and camaraderie sometimes to escape situations, but then at the end, when it comes down to it, sometimes you have to be selfish to actually survive. You know, like you can be altruistic for the better good, but then if you find yourself in that situation, you know, you're kind of just thinking of saving yourself or saving your family. So it's really like tough, tough place to be in.
I always think of that scene in Titanic, where Kathy Bates's character is literally begging the leader of that boat to turn around and go back, and she's basically ousted and talked over and overridden and said, and everyone says, no, we're not doing that, and she's like, well, damn you all to hell, basically. I always think of that, and that's a true story. There was a character that said, what the hell is wrong with you guys? We need to turn around and save these people drowning in the freezing cold waters. And they said, no, we're not doing that, because we're going to get flooded. Our boat's going to capsize, whatever the case, whatever excuse they ended up using. And it was like, those people were saved, and
the thing is, you don't know worst case scenario. The same was in this book. He didn't know, like, yes, all odds are is that he would have gotten shot, but you don't know that. It could have been that was the end of it. And that's what's so rough about it.
Yeah.
It could have been like that was enough, you know?
And that was true. So many people outed other people, had no idea that there were death camps and there were concentration camps. Like, no, there were people who just did not know that existed. And so they had no idea the ramifications of what they had done by outing their neighbors, or, you know, saying that their greengrocer down the street was housing Jews or something like that. You know, they just did. The short-sighted was, I'm gonna get money for doing this. So it's like I'm reading so much about World War II history right now. It's like, I read this, I'm reading A Train in Winter, I read Nightingale, I might read The Tattooist of Auschwitz, although I hear that book is very controversial, so I don't know. And then I also have Night by Ella Wiesel, which is like, I've never read that book.
So good.
What is it?
Night by Eli Wiesel.
Okay.
Is it Eli Wiesel? Probably.
I think it's Eli Wiesel. Is it?
It's a very short book. It's like,
Yeah.
very thin, but it's
a trilogy.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
several books to it.
The
but it's
Night trilogy.
like the
Night, Dawn, and Day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe I did. I read them a long time ago. Maybe I did read all three.
Let me see where it's at.
All right, I added it.
Winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. And very short, so I could probably, if I felt, you know, psychologically good enough, I could probably read it in a day. But anyways, a lot to learn. A lot to learn, a lot to hopefully not be repeated in the future.
I feel like that was one of the topics too, is going back to the past, because there's a part where Alex's dad tells him to not bring up his grandma, to let his grandpa forget about it. So you think, you know, you don't want to bring up the past because it causes pain, or the pain of remembering, but then also the pain of realizing what people went through, right? So sometimes you may not want to dive deeper and find out someone's past, but once you do, you get a different perspective into, you know, what they had to go through and a better understanding of who they are as people. So definitely it's a tough and like a sad, painful thing to go back and remember. But there's also growth that can come from that in this book.
For sure, for sure.
Example.
I like that. All right, let's move on. It is my turn, and I chose number 1. Number 1, did you like the overall layout / organization of the book, with there being basically 3 different narrations. There was like odd phrasing and sort of weird paragraphs and sentences, run-on sentences, repeating things. The I am writing, I am writing, I am writing, I am writing. That's a whole friggin' page. Not necessarily my cup of tea. I know there's some artistic qualities to that, but it's never been my favorite thing, is to have, you know, these pages literally that's just saying, we are writing, we are writing, we are writing. And some of the run-on sentences towards the end. I did like that there were 3 different narrations. I thought that was a really interesting way of creating this story as a whole. I don't know why Jonathan's letters weren't included, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. I just wonder why, because it must have been thought like, okay, maybe I should include Jonathan's letters. Nah, I won't do that. We'll just leave it as Jonathan's retelling of Trash and Blood. So basically, I liked the 3 different narrations, but I wasn't always a fan of the writing technique and sort of the more artistic direction that sometimes the writing was going into, because it would either distract me or annoy me, or yeah, that's pretty much it. Distracting or annoying. Anyone else?
Agree.
Mhm.
I don't know if he does that with his other books. He's written quite a few books. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I don't know if it's the same, if that's just his style. It's just sort of like outlandish.
I was interested in that book because I've heard of the movie. The movie actually won, I think, a few Oscars maybe. So I looked up what the book is about, and it sounds like a completely different story. It's about a little boy whose father dies, and he finds something that they used to do. It was like a scavenger hunt. He finds the key, and he basically spends the book trying to find the lock, and that helps bring him closer to the memory of his dad. So it was interesting to read that, having read this book, and kind of thinking, I wonder how it's structured. But I think for that one, I might watch the movie first and then read the book.
But what is it called? I missed that.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It was very
Same.
Not too long ago, like in the not early aughts, late aughts maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I think it was his second novel. This author's second novel.
Extremely Loud. I just want to know who's in it. Cast. Oh, Tom Hanks is in it. Oh, damn. Sandra Bullock. Darn.
Oh,
Viola Davis, John Goodman. Oh, wow. It's got a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it won a few Oscars, or at least was nominated for it.
Well, if Tom Hanks and Sandra Bullock in it, then probably. Speaking of Tom Hanks, total, what the word is, whatever.
Segue or branch
non
tangent?
sequitur.
Different brand. A Man Called Otto is coming out. I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
I heard about that on the radio, actually.
Why did they change his name?
Because Ove is more of a Swedish name and Otto is a more American name, so that's why. But you should definitely read that book. It's very good.
Oh my God, it's a tearjerker.
Really?
And you laugh. And you laugh. You laugh, you cry, everything. So
What's
yeah.
it actually called?
A Man Called Ove. Ove.
Ove. Okay.
I was in my
It's
head.
OV.
Ove.
Ove.
Ah.
Frederick Bachman, who also wrote Beartown and
My cousin read it and said the same thing you guys said. Tears and laughter.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very similar kind of story to this one where it's like starts out kind of humorous and then like you learn something really much more sinister and sad, mostly sad, and you're just like, oh damn. But it's very heartwarming story. I'm very excited to see that, and Tom Hanks in general. Okay. All right, let's move on. I think we only have 2 questions left. So Heather, which one? Number 5, which is how does Alex's tenuous at best grasp of English change as you
Yeah, I mean, you could see when he referenced something that he tried to change that one thing, but like Adina said, there were some things that like stuck. Like I couldn't believe how long manufactured Z's stayed in there. Like I was like, for sure he'd be corrected and say we went to sleep or whatever. Although I think he 2 times said went to sleep, which was meant death. Like his grandfather went to sleep in the pool of, blood. And somebody else went to sleep. I can't remember who he said, but yeah, it was like humorous. I'll say this, in the beginning, I was like, I effing hate this. I can't, I can follow, but like it seemed over the top. Like it was like watching Borat. Like I literally looked up, is this based on Borat? And
yeah, me too. I definitely read him in a Borat voice.
And it said, no, in fact, Borat wanted to make a movie, or not Borat, the actor, what's his name? I think wanted to write a movie based on this, but it was already done. And that's how I found out there was a movie about it. Because I was like, this is Borat. I know this is Borat. And I was like, it's over the top. It's done to be like, it's so stupid. Like the fact that he would have in his vocabulary the word like manufactured instead of made.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like he had such extravagant
well, he was given a thesaurus, and so he just like went to town on this.
That's right, he did. That's okay. I forgot about that part because I was like, it does make sense. If you're learning a language, you learn the simplified. So like made Z instead of manufactured Z's.
Yeah, I think part of it was like he thought that if he knew a more extravagant version of a word, that would make him a better English speaker.
Yes.
But yeah, he butchered it. And so
Yeah.
Premium, rigid, manufacturing Z's. There's a couple of quotes that I wanted to read to you. And one of them is on page 104. He says, I informed her that you are not troublemaking, but a good person, and that you are not a Jew with a large size letter J, but like Albert Einstein or Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, I remember reading that and being like, wait, what?
And I knew he was going to say Jerry Seinfeld. Like before I finished that sentence, I was like, he's going to say Jerry Seinfeld. And he did. And I was like, yeah. And then on page 106, back for more breakfast, the waitress asked. She says, good morning, would you like a mochaccino? Oh, he says, tell her yes, and maybe some bread or something. He is an American, I said. I know, she said. I can see. But he does not eat meat, so just give him a mochaccino. He does not eat meat? Rapid bowel proceedings, I said, because I did not want to embarrass him.
Right, which is like more embarrassing.
Rapid bowel proceedings.
Oh, it's so funny. Good, I hate when it's water. Yeah, I just love that. He's American. He does not eat meat. Rapid bowel proceedings. He can't eat meat. I can see oops a lot. I just really like that quote. So, and that was more towards the beginning where his English is still very much butchered, but yeah, as the book goes on, it does mellow out a little bit and makes the reading a little more digestible.
Well, I like how he starts questioning Jonathan, getting, upset with him about like, why'd you do this in the story and what's happening with this? Whereas at first it's just,
yeah, he's totally okay with everything that's being said. but then he's like, wait, you want to remove Sammy Davis Jr. from the narrative entirely, and you want to, you want to like create these lies about your family
Mhm.
that's clearly not true. Why do you do that? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a funny quote or funny
There
moment?
was one part, I think at the beginning, he was describing his dad, and I think he meant to say his dad is retired,
Yes.
but his dad is retarded.
I do remember that. And I was like, what is he trying to say?
Yeah.
That's when I first noticed, oh, his lack of knowing English is actually being portrayed in the book, like and the storytelling.
On page 5, grandfather's name is also Alexander. Supplementally is father's. We are all the primogenitori children in our families, which brings us tremendous honor on the scale of the sport of baseball, which was invented in Ukraine. He also has a very, very silly, very sheltered vision, or sheltered idea of Ukraine. Like he compares Ukraine to Miami, and he compares Ukraine to New York City. He says they're all, Odessa's like Miami. And another place is just like New York City because it's 6 stories tall. So like his idea of America is obviously not entirely accurate, probably because Ukraine is more sheltered. And another reason why Augustine doesn't even know about America. She has no idea what America is. So, it's very sheltered in his descriptions of Ukraine, and trying to compare it to this mystical land of America that he wants to go to so bad, but knows he'll never be able to go there.
What's the deal with spleening?
I was just about to say that. I was like, the spleening thing.
That was never corrected, and I was like, you didn't get this from the thesaurus, so like, what's going on?
To spleen.
Explain.
As like, stop annoying, like something that kind of annoys you.
Stop.
Or
Yeah.
upsetting, right? Because his mom would be spleened if she was like upset.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah, maybe you're right. It's like stop ribbing me or something.
Oh,
Ribbing, spleen, ribs.
okay. I can
It
see
says-
a thesaurus might take you there, maybe.
Yeah.
It says bad temper or spite. He could vent his spleen on the institutions which had duped him. This is from dictionary.com, I think.
So it's something he looked
annoyance,
up
vexation.
that we don't
yeah.
use.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or at least I don't use it.
But maybe it does come from something that maybe he heard on his travels in the Ukraine. Like maybe that, I'm thinking of like old sayings or old, like Jewish sayings. I know he's not Jewish, but on vocabulary.com, what does it mean to spleen someone? It means to vent your anger, as spleen is another word for bad temper or spite.
Yeah, we have that in Spanish. They're called dichos. So they're like sayings or colloquialisms.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you might want to say like something about, so in Spanish, I think it goes, if a shrimp is sleeping, the current is going to take him. So kind of like, it means, pay attention to what you're doing, or you're going to get wiped out with the current. So maybe it comes from something like that. He's just not translating it correctly because he doesn't know.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah, some very funny quotable lines in that.
Yeah.
Some of those pages. All right, we're down to our final question for Daniela, and it's a pretty straightforward question. And I guess this is for everyone, but you can answer it first, Daniela. Did anyone decide to read it in sections? So like you only read Alex's letters first, or you only read Alex's story first, or you only read Jonathan's story, and then you would go back and read the next part, and then go back and read the next part? Or probably what you did was read it straight through, right?
Yeah, definitely read it straight through, but there were a few times where I would go back to the track camp, like the history. Because I remember, I think that's like the second chapter, and then it's another letter. And when I went back to like the baby choosing the dad, I almost forgot like who was who.
Mhm.
And a lot of the villagers, he would list them by name, and like what they used to do, like what their occupations were. And I had lost track of all of that by that point. So I would go back and read. And then I realized, oh, what does it really matter? Because they're just changing anyways. So then I didn't really do that often, but pretty much just read it straight through. Would go back sometimes for some clarification or to remember like who was who. Because when, for example, the baby, I guess, chose her dad as Yankel, I didn't even know I forgot who Yankel was. So I had to go back and read who that was in the previous 2 chapters.
There are definitely a lot of characters, especially in
Mhm.
Jonathan's story. If you were to read the book again, not saying that you are going to or that you want to, would you read it in that way that I described, where you're reading all of the letters first and then all of the Alex's story of their trip through Ukraine? Would you do that? Because I was listening to a couple of people discuss this book and their thoughts. And some of them said, I read it straight through the first time, and then I realized that I should probably read it again and read it like that. And they said they were able to understand the story a whole lot better.
Hmm.
That,
If I wanted to, I think I would try that out because I never even considered it until you asked the question
Mhm.
just now. And as you said it, I'm like, that makes sense. But it's so, it's so here and there as you're going through it that would make sense. I'd probably want to start with like the history and read all those sections first, and then the trip, and then the letters. Because I feel like the letters were more about what happened after the trip.
Mhm.
So a lot of that, like going back and forth, was like, okay, like where are we again?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of time, a lot of pages had passed between one of those sections to coming back and going back to that section again. So, and you, especially with Alex's letters, you would probably get a more, like, you would see his progression of sublimely butchered English to like really partially butchered English. And that would be kind of like a, but, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably won't read this book again. I do want to see the movie. I do want to see the movie, and that's pretty much it. Does anyone else feel like they want to reread this book?
Can I just ask,
Like,
what is so exciting about the dead arm?
Yeah, the dead arm is weird. Women are attracted to dead.
I just didn't understand that storyline. Like, I was like,
Yeah,
I
at
don't
that point
get
in the
it.
book, at that point in the story, I was like, okay, this is not real. This is all just stuff that the character Jonathan has
It
just
was like
come up.
nonsensical though.
Yeah, I know.
And that, like,
fact
him
that-
saying he hadn't had an orgasm
Yes.
until his wedding night. I was just like, what have you been doing this whole time?
And that it wasn't even about, like, at first I was like, okay, it's because of the wife being the first person who like has to be with him. And then I was like, no, that's not it. And I was like, oh, is it because he's turned on by war? And I was like, what? No, that can't be it. And then when they were like, oh, it's because he knew that he had, that he had a kid on the way. I'm like, you don't know. Like, pregnancy is a very timed, like, obviously he hasn't had any kids with any of the other hundreds of people he slept with. So obviously having sex with someone the first time, it does not yield to it was just one of those where I was like, he orgasmed because he thought of the kid that he was producing. What?
So weird.
Yeah.
Psycho land.
Some parts where I was just like,
It was very confusing, but anyway.
But it was like, I kept thinking, like, where does he get these ideas? Like, the one thing about the crazy man who was tying string to different organs to try and remember things, and then didn't remember them. Like, I was like, where did this come from?
Oh, and the people having sex through the wall, I assume.
Yeah.
'Cause the guy was
Yes.
like, had the knife in his head, or what was in his head? I
Yeah.
forget.
They were
It was
having
a
the wall. Oh, that was very strange. Again, but I mean, these are just like John
Yeah.
was just like, screw it. Let me just come up with the most ridiculous storyline ever and rewrite history, literally rewrite history for my own family because I know nothing about them.
Yeah.
I like to read the reviews that they have at the back and in the front of the book. And I remember thinking, I thought this was gonna go somewhere different. I was kind of thrown off by the reviews. I think someone said it was like transcendental or something like that, or it'll leave you feeling very different. And I mean, it there's good points in it, and you know, it's nice, but it's not like, I don't know, maybe I wasn't illuminated.
Some people are like, oh my God, this is the best book I've ever read. Like I'm looking at these reviews on Goodreads and I'm like, good for you, really. Good.
Did you read the one where it said when Jonathan wrote this book, he must have said to himself, I am so smart. This is so clever. And I was like, that's kind of the most similar to how I feel about this.
Yeah. Like, wow, look at this. Look at me. Look at me creating these amazing stories. I'm a vegetarian and I only eat potatoes. Yeah. So, yeah, overall, not the best book I've read and not the best book I've read as a part of this book club, but you know, we had a really good discussion about it. So
It was definitely interesting. So,
It was, yes, I was like, interesting is the best way to describe it.
and a little traumatic at the end.
yeah,
Yes.
definitely not what I was expecting, especially with all the like sexually explicit parts. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope no one's looking over my shoulder right now because maybe they're reading porn or something.
You guys want to know something funny? One of my friends is taking classes to be a paralegal. So I took some time while she was studying to just read my book. So I was in her room just reading, and she got done with her assignment. So I told her, oh, do you want me to read to you a section of what I'm reading? So I started reading it out loud, and it was something about someone's breasts, and it was just, I was like, oh, we can just do this another time. It was like the worst section to read out loud. He's like, what are you guys reading? And I'm like, well, it's supposed to be funny, but it's about this, and I don't know. Yeah, it was like at the beginning.
Funny.
That same thing happened. I was like,
This is what I read in my book club. Harlequin. You guys want to read any Harlequin books? Should I suggest some Harlequin books? That's funny. That is very funny. All right. Well, it's 10 o'clock. I think we can call it a night. A good discussion. Very good discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your input. And then I'll probably be sending out an email in the next few days about what our February book is. I think I know what it is. I'm pretty sure I know what it is.
Did you already send an email about it?
No, not for February.
Oh, January book. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that'll include when we're gonna do the January book and then what the February book is. Obviously I'm would like to play catch up so that we're back on schedule moving forward. For you guys preliminarily would maybe like that first, well, I don't have my schedule for February yet, but I'm sure I can get the days off that I need to get off. Could we try for like that first half week in February? Are you guys available? So Wednesday the 1st, Thursday the 2nd, Friday the 3rd, any of those days?
I'm just not available Friday because that's when I'll be on Spirit Airlines.
Fingers crossed.
Plane?
That I think, yeah.
Can't call from the plane. Darn. Have to pay like $100 for that.
My vote, well, I mean, I can try anything, but with a time difference, if I am like teaching any of those days, Wednesday night for you guys, Thursday for me. Thursdays I don't teach in the mornings, and so that's easiest for me, but that's my, I could work around it. Well, I can try and work around it.
Okay, so Wednesday night for us, Thursday morning for you.
But do not necessarily work around me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible because for me it's this time works great. It's always after work, so any day really. Whatever works best for you guys.
Okay, so it will probably be Wednesday, the 1st.
That sounds good.
That's fine with me.
So that's 1, 2.
I need to figure out this book though, because it looks like I didn't put a hold on it.
Oh no.
The same thing happened to me, and I didn't do it until after Christmas, and now I have to wait until tomorrow, or actually Saturday.
Okay.
Let's say I'm the same. I have to pick mine up today or tomorrow.
Okay, so everyone's gonna get it in the next couple of days.
Yes.
Okay.
The
Cool.
personal librarian.
The personal librarian, yes.
Okay. Yeah, let me figure that out.
Reading the synopsis of it, it reminded me of this show that I started watching called The Gilded Age. Also on HBO. It's about the Gilded Age in the US basically. So I'm excited to read it. I hope I can read it before the meeting. I should be able to.
I feel like it's gonna be sort of breezy. It's probably more like dialogue driven. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go to the actual library.
Oh,
'Cause
no.
the ebooks are a long wait.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, when I went, the librarian told me I was like 16th in line. And she
Wow.
actually had heard about that book, so she was like, she was recommending it.
Okay. Yeah, that was the book I was supposed to read for my very first book club, and it disappeared. I never read it. And I remember looking at the library trying to see if I could get a hold on it, and they're like, "You're number 55 in line." I'm like, "Oh, hey, never mind." And then I found it recently and was like, "Oh, great. Okay, I can finally read this book, see what it's all about." All right. Well, I think we will call it a night. Thank you very much for showing up tonight. I appreciate that. And just look for an email from me in the coming days. That's it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, guys. Thank you.
All right, good night.
Bye.